Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your dude Lorenzo coming to you with another episode of the Let That Marinate podcast. It's my first podcast of the new year, 2026, and I hope your new year is off to a great start. I know new year means new beginnings, new start. Everything is new. We're leaving things in the past. We're letting all those old things, stay where it is, and it's all new things going on from here. So I hope that's what's happening for you. So far, that's what's happening for me. So we're just gonna, trust God and trust the process, and everything is just gonna work out the way that it should. So yo, like I said, first podcast of the new year. I know it's been a minute. It's been a while. A lot has been going on, man. A lot has been going on. So, but we back. We back doing what we do, and I do want to take this time to just show my gratitude to everyone who's been showing me love with this podcast and pushing me and motivating me to continue to do the podcast. It really means a lot. Thank you so much. And just really means a lot. Because when I first started this podcast, and I made mention of it, um, I was very overwhelmed by the response. Because I didn't think people would um, support it. But hey, uh, like I said, it's been overwhelming, man, and I really appreciate everybody that's uh, that's been showing me love. So I want to get into something real quick. So I want to get into something real quick because I saw something online that I just had to speak on this, man. And maybe it triggered me when I first heard it. Maybe I took it personal. Maybe it put me in a space where I'm like, yeah, I really don't, I really can't get with that. But anyway, everyone's familiar with Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. She's internet sensation. She does a lot of interviews, and I do believe that yes, she says a lot of, she gives a lot of great insight when it comes to talking about certain things, especially relationships. I really do think she says a lot of good stuff. But this one in particular, I could not get with. And like I said, maybe it triggered me. Maybe it was, maybe it's something personal. But hey, it is what it is. But anyway, I'm gonna let y'all take a look at this clip, so you can see what I'm talking about, and then we'll go from there. So check this out.
So, love that. That's a hybrid answer. I would date a father like my father. Any man who has multiple kids by multiple women is a womanizer. And in addition to that, you marry none of them. It's not a thought, it's a no. What kind of man goes and procreates with multiple women, provides no covering, no provision, and you're not in the house with any of them? You're selfish, you have narcissistic traits, or you are narcissistic, and you are very much a womanizer who cares about one person.
All right, so there it is. There it is. She says that men with multiple baby mothers are womanizers, and then well, first of all, I really don't. I, although I do, again, I think that she gives great insight on a lot of stuff. This one, I disagree. I really disagree. I really don't see the logic behind that, and not just because I'm a father of six. I have multiple baby mothers. I really don't like referring to them as that. Those are the mothers of my kids. Um, but I really don't see how me having or any man who has multiple baby mothers, I really don't see how that makes them a womanizer. Because for me, you know, I was in a relationship with the mothers of my kids. I was married to one, so it's not like I was just jumping from situation to situation, procreating with these women, right? And my thing is, I it's even though it's irresponsible, I do believe that when two consenting adults have sex, I don't believe the intent is to have a child with this person, especially if you don't see yourself being with this person. However, if a child does come out of the situation, um, you know, then I feel like that responsibility falls on both, right? Because my thing is, if a woman has multiple baby daddies, what does that make her? Right? Like, what does that make her? And also, again, what if the two people were in a meaningful relationship and unfortunately that relationship didn't work out and he moves on, he's in love with another woman, he's in another meaningful relationship with that woman and then, they, end up having a child. Um I really don't see how that's I don't see how that makes him a womanizer, right? I don't see how that makes him because and I looked up the definition of a womanizer. It's a man who habitually pursues, seduces, or has short-term sexual relationships with multiple women, often in a deceitful and non-committal manner. That does happen for sure. That is something that does happen. There are a lot of guys who does that as well, right? However, I also believe that men who are in relationships with women, I'm sure that there's more that they are looking to have. They're looking to establish with that woman, right? Not just procreating, but you know, building, building for the future as far as marriage and and basically everything that they're wanting to have as a couple. I'm sure that there are other things that they're looking to cultivate. And it's just weird how you know you can look at that situation and here's the thing when she it's not just she said that men with multiple baby mothers are womanizers, but she also started adding other factors to define what a womanizer is. You know what I mean? When she mentioned about you know he's not offering a covering, he's not offering marriage, he's not offering this and this, and it's like, okay, um now you're moving the goalpost. It's like now you're saying that she also said that he was selfish, but it's like, again, how can a man be selfish if the relationship didn't work, right? And let's be honest, there are some women who may be in a relationship with a man but no longer wants to be with him for whatever reason. She may be the one in that relationship, or she may be the one who doesn't see a future with him and doesn't see marriage happening. That sort of thing can happen too. So does that make him a womanizer still if the woman was the one who left that relationship, right? And then you know if and then he moves on to another relationship, right? And maybe that relationship doesn't work, and maybe she leaves him, right? So it's like that sort of thing happens also. Women don't. There are some women who don't. They don't stay in relationships. They don't see themselves marrying that person, so they decide to leave the relationship, right? And again, for me, I was in a relationship with all of my mother's kids, with all of my kids' mothers, right? I was married to my youngest daughter. I was married to her mother, right? Unfortunately, they didn't work out. Yes, I played a part in that, but again, it didn't work out. But it wasn't like I was just jumping from situation to situation, procreating with these women with, with no intent on being with them. Yes, I wanted to be with these women. Yes, I wanted to establish and cultivate a healthy relationship with these women. Unfortunately, it didn't work, right? After the relationship didn't work, my mindset wasn't, hey, let me go move on to the next one and, have a baby with this one and see how it plays out. Nope, this doesn't work. Okay, fine, let me move on. That's not how that went down. Now again, I do feel like there are men who does that. They do, you know, have these sexual encounters with these women with no intent on being with them. You know what I mean? And there's no now and there's no child involved. They're just having sex with these women, and you know, no plans of committing to them and being with them. So he goes from that situation and moves on to the next. That's a womanizer. That's a womanizer, right? A man who is just, you know, bouncing from situation to situation with no intent with committing to these women, right? That's a womanizer. But a man who has a child who procreates with these women, again, this is very well possible that this was a relationship that just did not work out, and it happens. It happens. Yes, you have a child with this person, but unfortunately, the relationship just did not work out, right? And then also, I mentioned about how sometimes things happen. Sometimes you have sex with someone, and you're strapped up, and hey, the condom breaks, right? Or there's some spillage, bad term, and it's very irresponsible, for sure. But that sort of thing happens also, right? And it's also very well possible that neither one had any intent on being with each other. They were just feeling each other in a sexual way, and unfortunately, something happened that caused the baby to come out of the situation. Hey, it happens, right? But again, to say that a man is a womanizer, to call him narcissistic and selfish and all that, I just don't agree with that part. Especially when you don't know the situation, and also if you're not, you also have to understand that women do the same thing. Women also mess around with multiple guys with no intent on being with them. What does that make her? Does that make her a whore or a manizer? Right? I don't know. I mean, I just don't. I just think it's unfair to place a label on men, when they're doing certain things. But you know, this happens a lot with any gender, right? So again, I don't agree. I didn't really agree with that logic. It just didn't make sense to me. And again, maybe it was because I took it personally because I am a father of I am a father who has multiple you know baby mothers. Um, but as I said, my situation to me, I think it's different because I was in a meaningful relationship. I was married to one, and I think that you know just because one relationship didn't work, and then you move on to the next, and you're in a relationship with that person, and y'all have a child together. Okay, me having multiple kids from multiple women, I don't see how that makes me a womanizer. It just didn't make sense. So although there are some things I do agree with her on, because again, she does give great insight on a lot of stuff. She really does. I'm not taking anything away from her. I just don't agree with her on this one here. Because again, my thing is this: if you're gonna place a label on someone, at least at least um, there has to be a legitimate reason as to why you would feel that way, right? There has to be like some really solid evidence as to what makes a person that, or why would you consider a person to be that. And for me, I just don't feel like a man with multiple baby mothers is a womanizer. Again, it could very well be that a man was in a relationship with a woman, it didn't work out with one, he moved on to the next, you know, and that's what it is. That's all it is. So anyway, man, that's my take on that. Feel free to comment. Feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to give me your input on that. Also, if you want to go and check out the full interview with Dr. Cheyenne, she did as I said, she did the podcast with Justin LaBoy. If you want to check out the full interview to listen to what she had to say. Maybe you have a different maybe you have different views and thoughts on it, different opinions. Hey, and if you want to talk about it, just hit me up and we could talk about it. You know what I mean? Um, But yeah, yep. I just had to come on, and I had to speak on that because when I watched it, you know, throughout the interview, yeah, she was saying some pretty good stuff. She really was. It was just that part there that just really got me, and I'm like, yeah, no, I gotta say something about that because that didn't make any sense to me. And of course, I had to go and look up the word womanizer, and when I saw the definition of it, I was like, oh, yeah, she made up her own definition because you know what I'm saying. She because again she started placing all these different factors behind it. You know what I'm saying, trying to I guess make her point more valid. But no, no, yeah, I was like, no, I can't get with you on this one. Yeah, I don't agree with that one. It makes sense. But hey, um, again, if y'all wanna talk about it, please leave a comment in the comment section under the video, and we can talk about it, man. But until then, hey, we're going to be doing more podcasts. We're going to be, you know, really engaging more and being more active. Like I said, this is a new year, new start. You know, different things are happening. And I'm looking forward to those things to come. Again, I hope your year is off to a great start. I hope everything is going the way that they should. And if not, hey, you still got time to make it happen. Don't get too discouraged and just keep going, man. That's what it is. Keep going. In the meantime, y'all have a good one. Until next time, let that marinate. We'll see you next time.